For Team India, this is one final game for 2018 in the coloured clothing, and this is a crucial game for them to make it count because the series is poised in such a way that Australia have the slight advantage, India with a chance to make it 1-1 in a stadium that is much more blue than it is green and gold. Here on Cricket Buzz Live, we'll try and make a sense of everything. We already know that Australia will be batting first. We already know that there's no JB in their lineup, but luckily in our lineup is trying to be a little more consistent. So JB is still very much with us. Joy Bhattacharya, thank you for staying with us, even though Jason Behrendorff is gone from there, and Akash Chopra stays with us.
So AC is there as well, just to make it cooler.
Always cool. Well, Virat Kohli, again, we thought it would be a redundant toss, and it turned out to be like that.
Correct, because he may have thought of making a change, but then the way Khalil bowled in the first spell in the second T20I in Melbourne, I thought there was a bit too much to actually drop him now. You're investing in him. We discussed this last time around that they're not looking at the T20 series as a T20 series. They're obviously keeping an eye on the World Cup, which is a 50-over event. So if you're trying to give somebody an opportunity, then make sure that you go back him to the hilt and don't really make changes, but then spare a thought for Yuzvendra Chahal. The poor guy has done nothing wrong. In fact, he's one of the fastest to 50 T20I, ODI wickets and all of that, setting the world on fire whenever he comes out in India colours or RCB colours. But he doesn't find a place in this Indian setup. It's very, very unfortunate.
Will he start playing chess again, maybe?
Exactly what I was thinking. I said he's got the patience, he can go back and do some things. But the other thing is, I was thinking, I can't remember a series in which Virat Kohli has played with the same team 3 times in a row.
It's been the talking point, in fact, in the last couple of years, that we don't go even 2 games without a change. And here we are talking about,
he's played the same team.
And that too, we've had a washout and a loss. So it's not even that you're wiping out the opposition. So don't change a winning combination.
No, but how do you change? You've not batted 20 overs. At least bat 20 overs in a T20I series. 2 matches are already done. So I think that's what has
great
really
weather in Sydney. Give the selectors a break. Ghar jao wahi 11 le lete. Koi tension nahi.
Let's confirm. Yes, the best news of the day, of course, is the fact that we're not expecting any rain, not just today, for the next 3 days in Sydney, just in case you were wondering. So no problem with the weather. We're going to have 40 overs of cricket, maybe just a little bit less if India decide to chase it down quicker. And that is the unchanged lineup once again for Team India. So no place for Yuzvendra Chahal. Lots of talk about where Virat Kohli was going to be batting, but I think the fact that we've put it there and the way we saw him padded up in Melbourne, we reckon that's probably going to be his position. Mentioned JB as well at the very top, and that, of course, we were talking about the one change for Australia, which is big news for them because it means that Mitchell Starc, yes, Mr. Healy, in a sense, walks into the team. We'll talk more about what Mrs. Starc has done. And there you see Mitchell Starc walking into the lineup in place of Behrendorff, and suddenly it just looks a different lineup, doesn't it?
It does actually, and Mitchell Starc, his selection itself is telling you a thing or two about the Australian mindset. Not in the original squad. And it's not that there is a paucity of faster bowlers in Australia and there is a dire need for Mitchell Starc to now come and galvanize and somehow resurrect this failing team. It's not the case, but they do also know and have already realized that there is a series to be won. And there's no better feeling than winning a series. So get your best bowler back. Billy Stanlake's injury came at the right time, so it's a bit of a blessing in disguise for them. But then Starc's admission tells us the mindset of this Australian team, that they are taking this game very seriously.
26 months since he's played a T20 international. So in fact, a T20 game, period.
They're desperate for a series win.
Correct.
In the shorter format of the game, they haven't done well at all. They're desperate for a series win. And I think, actually, it's not great for Starc because, you know, if I want to go out and bowl, I'd rather not bowl to anyone in a T20 match. I'd rather bowl to them in a test match because they'll give me respect. Here, you look at his record. His record is, I mean, it's a great record, but it's a record pre-2016. It's like saying that, you know, Virat Kohli hasn't, if he hadn't played for 2.5 years, would he have been the player he is? So it's expecting a lot out of him. He hasn't played that much in the shorter format. He doesn't get too much BBL action thanks to Australia being very busy at that period. It'll be interesting how he adapts, and I don't think the Indian bats, I mean, for this match it's good, but to get an early look at Starc is not a bad thing for them at all. It doesn't matter to them.
I think as a bowler he'll be all right. You know, he's too good a bowler to not adapt to a different format, even if he's been para-dropped. So I think he'll be all right. If the ball is swinging, he will trouble the Indian openers. Rohit Sharma, the ball coming in, for Shikhar Dhawan, the ball going away. He's obviously quicker, more accurate as compared to Jason Behrendorff and Billy Stanley put together. So he will make an impression, maybe a stark difference to their bowling lineup as well.
I like the lineup. I like the phrase para drop. We talk about drop in pitches. We now have drop in fast bowlers.
Faster bowlers as well.
Just get them in.
And one day he might even finish an IPL season. एक दिन वो भी हो सकता है.
That is slightly difficult. It's not happening in 2019 for sure. So
we've been waiting since 2015.
2020 is a World T20 year, so it's not happening then also. So think about maybe 2021.
Yeah, well, even if he doesn't finish the season, whenever he's played, he has made an impact. And right now, it's just one game. Almost as if it's a workout before that first test match, and a nice 4-over workout in live conditions.
Anything else, is just the seriousness with which they're taking this. This is important to them. This win is really important to them. They want to set the tone going into the test series, and they said, let's not miss a trick out here. If you have to get our extra resources out here and just push this one through, let's do it.
Also, while we might have all our team picking out the numbers, I'm sure the Australians will know that India have never lost a third T20 international in a bilateral series. Let's just confirm those numbers for you. As I said, it's public knowledge. So maybe it's another reason Australia are taking this extra seriously. They want to win the series and they know India's record. And guess where that record started? It started at the SCG 31st January 2016, and it's continued as a pattern. Not everyone necessarily is a series win, but it's a victory in that third match.
You know, it also tells you, and yes, 2016, 31st January, I remember that date, or rather that match quite significantly, for a simple reason that now they've got Stark for this game, and it tells you about the seriousness of this event for them. Go back to 2016, 31st of January, half of their team was in New Zealand already. Because there was an ODI series to prepare for, so all the big guns were sent across the Tasman thing and then go play there, get prepared. This T20I series, don't worry about it. India, even if we lose, and India actually defeated them 3-zip. So it was a bit of a mauling that India handed out to them, but they did not mind it one bit, because they were more focused about their trans-Tasman rivalry, and they were not bothered about India-Australia rivalry. So now a lot has changed since then. India, of course, haven't dropped a single game. That happens to be the third T20I in a bilateral series. Australia have realized that dropping another game here is not a good thing. Try your best to win the series.
Very interesting. If you look at that Indian lineup for that match, I was just thinking about it. When you start the batting lineup, it's exactly the same. So there's Shikhar, there's Rohit, there's Virat. And then there's nothing in common. Everything has changed after that. You see the first three is the same. There's no Raina, there's no Yuvraj, there's no Dhoni, yeah. There's no Ashwin, there's no, all the players who did, Jadeja, all of them are gone. True. So the top three are exactly the same, the bottom eight have changed completely.
And given the fact that Australia also had a very different look, so I'd say if you look at the 22 players, you'd probably end up with 4 or 5 common on both sides.
Out of which 3 are the Indian top 3.
True, true, completely agree.
But looking at that again, I think the whole theme is going to be about the serious nature in which they're taking it. Not just for winning a T20 international series, which really technically has nothing at stake, but it's about setting the tone for the summer.
You know,
even if it's a different format.
You know, some may actually call it very preposterous for me to even suggest that this could be the only series that they might end up winning on this entire India road to Australia. There is a possibility. I'm not saying that India is going to win the test series and India is winning today and India is going to just whitewash Australia in the ODIs. But the fact also remains that this is the weakest Australia that India is likely to face. Whether you talk about T20I, you look at the test series, you won't even know half the names if you don't really follow Australian cricket that closely, and that to their Sheffield cricket that closely, because a couple of debutants will be handed over a test cap in Adelaide on the 6th of December. So you pretty much know that this is your opportunity. Take one game at a time. I think that's exactly what they're thinking. Don't look too far ahead. Don't get ahead of yourself either, and just try and seize the moment. And this is their moment. Let's be fair. Twice they had the benefit with regards to rain. This is not going to be a rain curtailed game anyhow. So bring in your best asset and try and win a series.
But just as a counterpoint to that, I know Australia have 2 big guns missing and there will be a few debutants, but when you look at Test cricket and the importance of bowling and taking those 20 wickets, Australia's bowling is still fairly intact. It's the batting where they have problems.
Fair point. That's a very fair point. I mean, India's bowling is better than it's ever been. you have to say for a series abroad, but Australian bowling has not deteriorated as much as its batting has, and it's primarily also because batting a large part of his experience, just knowing that you can do the runs on the board. A lot of fast bowling is, new bowlers come in and make immediate impacts. New batsmen take time to make that impact, that experience. So I think I tend to agree with him. This is our best chance for, and it's Australia's best chance as well to win something and set a tone to this summer.
And then the bowling is, yes, one part of it is that you don't take that much time to evolve and mature as a bowler. But also these are evolved, matured bowlers that you're actually going to be facing. Pat Cummins, you talk about Mitchell Starc, you talk about Josh Hazlewood and Nathan Lyon. These are as good 4 bowlers that you would ever get on Australian soil. So yes, it will be some baptism with fire, but then India have got the bowlers. It's all down to the batting. Whoever bats less poorly is going to win the series.
It's a very interesting one for India.
Fair point.
Because we are normally known as a batting side, but that's what we are saying. We are saying that if our batting is can hold our heads above the water, and this is not the batting side, and we have sent batting sides out here which, just the Fab 5 and then plus a few people who are sitting in the studio with us. We've sent some good sides out there.
Yes, blocking he calls it, but we've had a lot of chat about that in the first match. But on the subject of bowling, while we might talk about the test bowling that's going to come from 6th of December, right now we've seen the consistency. I know we've had a chat about the 6th bowler, but if you have to look at the positive side of it, it's India being consistent, that we don't have a 6th bowler, but we are looking at using our 5 bowlers, as you said, Akash, in the most consistent manner where they bowl and when they bowl.
So that was the difference from game 1 to game 2. We are looking at the number of matches here, 16 wickets is what the 6th bowler has got from 16 to 17, the Jan 16 to August 2017.
The big number
but since
is from September 2017 till now, just the 1 wicket and hardly any overs. 6 overs bowled by the 6th bowler.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Honestly, personally, it disturbs me. It worries me that you don't have a 6th bowler. And he's not good enough to be used. One side of the story is that your 5 bowlers are always doing the job, but does it always happen that way? We tend to paper over a lot of cracks because of the top 3 that we have. If that was not the case, then India would end up with, say, 3 or 4 T20 titles. India's got only 1 to show for the best league that we have. You look at any IPL side, Hardik Pandya, for example, who's been our 5th bowler playing for India, in his own franchise, he's 6th or 7th bowler at times. He rarely bowls his full quota of overs. So I think that's one important cog that's missing, whether it's Kedar Jadhav or Krunal Pandya now evolves into a top quality international T20 player, and his brother Hardik Pandya starts bowling a lot more and more consistently. Till that time, I will be slightly worried that you need to have 6 bowling options at the very least.
Joy, before you answer that, 2 things happened from September 2017. One was, of course, the start of the wrist spinner era, and 2 was India's winning run started then. So while we might be saying it's an alarm, and I'm fully in Akash's camp on that, I think every team, if you look at all lineups around the world, I don't think anyone can say they don't have a 6th bowler active in the team, whether they use him or not.
No, absolutely. But as I said, one has been the colossal, impact of the wrist spinners. India's 2 wrist spinner formula. You remember the 216 team? They went to 197, and that's both Ashwin and this thing went for runs. Jadeja went for runs. Here you've always used 2 wrist spinners. In fact, this is one of the few series in which we aren't. The interesting other thing I have to say to this is also styles of captaincy. So if you look at the Dhoni style of captaincy, Dhoni loved to have resources to play with. 6, 7, 8. He likes a part-time bowler. You bowl with. He goes to an IPL, doesn't bowl Harbhajan for first few matches, doesn't bowl Jadeja for a few matches, doesn't bowl Harbhajan in the finals. He likes to play with a lot of resources and sort of marshals them. Virat very much is the kind of captain who will say, okay, here your job is to bowl your 4 and get it right. Your job is to get your 4 right, and he captains that way. Now, whether you agree or disagree with it, my essential problem is that with Virat's formula, it's when things go right, they will go right. But if somebody suddenly breaks a shoulder or some accident, mishap happens on the ground, we really don't have a guy out there who can even bowl 2 overs or looks like bowling 2 or 3 overs. And I think, therefore, Dhoni as a captain would always sort of captain for Murphy's Law, that something will go wrong and I've got the resources, I'll figure a way around it. True. Virat captains to say, I've got it, you guys do your job, we'll win the match. And it's very different. It's worked so far for him, but in big tournaments, it's better to have resources.
All you have to do is just fail once. See, I really don't want to be that guy saying that, you know, there is a possibility of a failure, but that's what we have seen. You don't win a World T20 or a World event without dropping a game. Sometimes, in fact, when you talk about the last World T20 in India, Virat Kohli was asked to bowl in a World T20 semi-final. Can you believe it? Now, he had to bowl. That obviously tells you that there is a problem. Where did it end up coming back to haunt you? And that was the game that you had to win. You couldn't win that one, and West Indies went on to win the tournament. So that is one thing that they'll have to address. And even when Hardik Pandya, just to stay a little longer on the subject, even when Hardik Pandya is available, don't keep him as your 5th bowler. Have him as your 6th bowler. So then both Pandya brothers can actually play. I'm okay with it. Or you replace one Pandya brother, maybe the elder one, with Chahal, and have 5 proper bowlers. I'm a huge fan of that. Because every bowler is 20% of your bowling resource. You need them, and you need them every single day. Batting you can still do with the top 3 doing well, 20 overs, they take care of it, and you don't need 5, 6, 7 at times. There's no such luxury in with regards to bowling, but have Pandya as your 6th option and not as your 5th.
He has to be number 6.
Bite the bullet.
I fully agree.
It's just that reverse logic of the fact that Virat Kohli is stuck with Krunal Pandya for only one reason over Chahal, really, and that is nothing to do with one bowler versus the other bowler, maybe a bit of form for Chahal, but it's his batting. So if you just reverse that, why would you not allow someone in the bowling department to have that extra strength?
My simple fact of the matter is you have to, as a captain or as a team, selection committee team, say your top 5 has to deliver for you. That's the only way to do it, saying that, okay, your top 5, your top 6, these are you can have 5 specialist batsmen, that's all you're allowed. Who are your top 5? And see, we're human beings, and we adjust to whatever is given to us over time, periods of time. If you're told that, okay, boss, we have to play with 5 and then they're going to be 2 all-rounders, we will live with it, we'll learn it, sooner or later we'll get around to it.
You know, the other way to handle this could have been, obviously it's not happened now, drop a Pant or a Dinesh Karthik or whoever, I don't care, get Krunal Pandya as your 6th bowling option and still play Chahal. Then you're investing more faith in Krunal Pandya's batting abilities as well, and that is when you'll actually get to know whether he's going to cut it or not. Maybe not in this game, maybe in the first game itself or whatever. The fact is, unless you get him to bat consistently and give him harder tasks to accomplish, you will never know whether he's actually this material. So that's an opportunity missed.
And there are enough people who still classify him as a slight batting all-rounder, 55-45. So
he is. He's a batting all-rounder. He's not a bowling all-rounder.
Much more than his brother also. And he's, if you see the way Mumbai uses him, he's more of a go-to player for them. He's more of a responsibility player for them as a batsman than Hardik Pandya.
Okay, definitely. I'll give you another, and I hope at some stage the stats will also back me up, that even when he's bowled well for Mumbai Indians, when you look at his average number of games, the innings that he's bowled, you will find that average will be about 3.5 overs per innings. It will not be 4 overs per inning. So you would pretty much know that even for that IPL franchise in a tournament, a domestic tournament called the IPL, he doesn't bowl 4 overs. But for playing, while playing for India, he's not just expected. It's a demand that you bowl your 4 overs because I don't have anyone else.
And for that same franchise, more often than not, we see him with the pads on, ready to come in 2 places higher than he's scheduled to come in.
Absolutely. He's a go-to batsman for them, not that much of a go-to bowler. And see, that's my point. We get used to whatever we want to choose to do. I also have one more question. Number 6 batsmen winning you matches. Okay, how many number 6 batsmen win you matches in a T20 format? And just replace that versus what an extra genuine bowler will do for you.
The better way actually, Joy, would be the number of balls per on an average number 6 and number 7 play in a T20 game.
Fair enough.
It will be about 7 or 11. I promise you it is not 12 or 13.
If you're chasing and your number 6 is winning you the game, you're probably in trouble already. If you're batting first, it's just going to be the extra runs he adds at the end.
Correct. Absolutely true. And so that's my point, that 20 over format, in a 50 over format, I can still understand to a larger extent, why you need that whole 6 batsmen. True. In 20 overs, if you're going to lose wickets, you can lose them in a heap anyway. Having one extra is not going to make that much of a difference.
Well, talking about families, we did mention Mr. Mitchell Starc, who's in the Australian lineup here, but let's not forget what Alicia Healy has done. Remember, in that one particular game, there was a feeling she may not even play the next couple of games because she really had a terrible collision and had concussion, went off the field, had no more part to play in that game which India won against Australia, and then came back strongly and came back as the player of the tournament. Let's first remind you what happened in the final itself, which was, of course, Australia winning pretty easily against very strong England lineup who dismissed India in that semi-final. Danny Wyatt was the only one who shone through with 43 of 37, but nobody batted around her. 105 was never going to be enough against this Australian lineup, and you could see what they did to the West Indies in the semi-final. They once again did. Number 5 did not even walk out to bat, and that's how easily they won this tournament.
Slightly, do you actually feel, just to spoil the party here without, like, obviously celebratory and all of that, and I really like that you said Mr. Healy and not Mrs. Stark, because that's how it should be, at least today. It's actually poor advertisement for T20 cricket. Why are you, like, the entire tournament was played at a different time. Suddenly you come at the knockout stage, and dew is suddenly playing such a huge factor, where pitches are of a certain nature that you can't really score 150, 160, which was par for the course only few games ago in the same tournament. And now 110, 112, dew comes in, you can't really defend. I think slightly bad management with regards to just organizing the knockout matches for this tournament. It could have been better.
For the India games, of course, it was about getting that prime slot in the evening, but it also meant there was no dew factor if you started local time 11 o'clock.
Correct.
Absolutely, and also the fact that leaves me that the only team, who's the only team that beat Australia in this tournament? Correct. And so there's lots to say about how our team has done. And while it is, shout out, happy birthday to Jhulan Goswami. It's her birthday.
Yes.
It's her birthday today.
True.
I think she was our first ICC Women's Player of the Year in 2007. Or was there one before that? But she was.
No, she was, and I can remember that for one very strong reason. I was on the flight with her going for the ceremony. And she was extremely nervous because the person she was sitting next to on the flight before we swapped seats was Ian Bishop. And while it might be very appropriate, fast bowler, she came and told me in Bengali, please change seats with me. I respect the man, but I cannot spend 9 hours next to him. I don't know what I'm going to say to him.
She's very sweet. She's very sweet, and she's a legend. She is a legend, deserves a lot more than what the country has offered her thus far, because 300 wickets is not a mean feat, boss.
And I know we talked a lot about a few of the little issues that India had in selection, but with someone like Jhulan in there, that X factor, had she still been around for this tournament, would really have made a big difference in that lineup, because that's what India is missing right now, quality quick bowler.
I think we need a quality quick bowler, and yeah, she was a great dressing room presence as well. She was always that genial sort of elder sister kind of feel to it, get the people together. She was excellent for us in the dressing room, but she's still got a lot to give Indian cricket, and she's going to do it as well. True.
All right, now it's time for you to be a little less genial than you normally are on the show, which is when you're giving people something to think about. What do we have in store for today's Joy Factor?
This is a very standard one, I'd say. Okay, here goes. If Lawrence Rowe, Matthew Sinclair, Jacques Rudolph and Brendan Kurupu are the other names, which Englishman should be top of the list for something he did at this very ground, the Sydney Cricket Ground? Okay, I promise you one thing. By the time this show ends,
Kaustav Pathak would have cracked.
we would have got at least 3 replies.
Yes, this is a simple one you've left in there. Despite this being a decider, you started with a toughie on a footballing note.
Yeah, that was actually an interesting one. That for 10 minutes we didn't get a response, which I thought was record for our time. Yeah,
in fact, I think before we finish this entire discussion, before we get our predictions in, I reckon if someone's monitoring hashtag CrickBuzzLive, which is what you need to do to get your answers in, not just Kaustav Pathak, but plenty of you out there would have already got the answer, because there is a bit of a hint if you look at those names, because for a lot of them they have been associated with a particular feat and maybe not something else, but that's all I'm saying for now. Let's get into the numbers. I know we've talked about 197, 198 having been scored once between these two teams. We haven't got too much of an insight onto the surface, saying it's going to be a little bit drier to end with. What do you look at as a score here?
We are not looking at a double 100 here, no chance.
Fair
so
enough.
We are looking at 160, 170. I think that's exactly what Australia actually thought of in the second T20I as well, and we discussed that briefly on that day, that they're batting as if they're trying to score 180.
Exactly.
Even when they were losing wickets, they'd already set the bar too high, thinking of what happened actually in Brisbane. So it had a slight effect on the way they actually ended up batting. This time they do have a slightly better bowling attack. They've got Coulter Nile back, they've got Mitchell Stark back. So once that's the case, 160, 165, a series decider might just be enough. So 160, 170 would be my guess.
Give us a figure. Exactly.
Okay, 163.
163.
I think we're going to bowl well. I think 155. I think we're going to get them.
Yeah, I think we're going to bowl even better than that.
140?
I'm going 139.
Oh my God.
139. I know Australia have got strength in the bowling department. Mitchell Starc will be under pressure to try and defend a low total. Okay. Maybe I'll be completely blown away, but it doesn't really matter. But we're going to end this particular show with just a little factor to add to what we've been saying so far. India, unchanged in this entire T20 international series. Guess what? 2016 when they played, they were unchanged as well. So there is a bit of consistency. Australia have had their changes. Will there be a change as far as the results are concerned? Just time to say thank you to Joy Bhattacharya, to Akash Chopra. We'll be back with Crickbuzz Combox in the 10th over, given that there's no rain and we can do some even calculations. So half of 20 is 10. That's when we'll see you. And of course at the mid-innings break.